Ryan Carter had built a life on being reliable. At 32, he was a successful Chicago financial analyst with a pristine reputation and a fiancée, Emma, who considered his honesty his greatest trait. He was a man who felt he had everything to lose. That image of perfection was threatened on a Tuesday morning when his alarm failed to go off. Waking up an hour late for a shift under a notoriously strict boss, Ryan was gripped by a sudden, irrational panic. Instead of admitting he overslept, he sent a text claiming his mother was in the hospital. The response was immediate. His boss told him to take all the time he needed. In 10 seconds, the threat to his job was gone. But the relief was short-lived. That evening, Emma asked for details about his mother's condition. To keep the initial story from falling apart, Ryan invented a second lie, a sudden issue with low blood pressure. Over the next few weeks, the maintenance of the story became a full-time job. He was forced to research symptoms, invent names of specialists, and describe fake hospital visits just to keep up with the concerned questions from his friends and family. Ryan had successfully avoided being late, but he was now spending more energy protecting the lie than he ever spent on his actual work. The deception had become a burden that required a constant stream of new fabrications just to keep the truth at bay. The deception even yielded a dark kind of profit. Citing his resilience, his boss gave him a major promotion and a significant raise. Ryan had a chance to come clean to Emma that night, but he looked at his new lifestyle and the way she looked at him with pride. He chose to stay silent, protecting his new status by doubling down on the fraud. The story eventually took on a life of its own. Neighbors, coworkers, and even his church members were drawn into the web, offering prayers and support for a crisis that didn't exist. Then, the fiction and reality collided. Ryan received a frantic call from his sister. Their mother actually collapsed from a severe stroke. Ryan rushed to the hospital, suddenly trapped in the exact scene he had been casually faking for months. The sterile smell and the beeping monitors were no longer details in a story. They were his new, terrifying reality. This is the irony of a long-term lie. The moment a real crisis arrives, all the fake protections you've built become completely useless. When Ryan finally returned to work, he found a giant check waiting for him. His coworkers had raised $50,000 to cover his mother's medical bills. He looked at the names of the donors. Interns gave up half their paychecks. Coworkers canceled their vacations. The weight of their genuine sacrifice made his deception unbearable. That night, staring at the fundraiser page in his apartment, Ryan reached his breaking point. He sat Emma down and confessed every lie he had told since that first rainy Tuesday. Emma didn't argue. She simply took off her engagement ring, told him she didn't recognize him, and walked out of the apartment. The next morning, the collapse was total. Ryan stood before the entire company, admitted to the fraud, and refused the money. Within the hour, he was fired and escorted from the building by security. By attempting to shield his life from the minor consequence of being late, Ryan had instead ensured the destruction of his career, his reputation, and his home. Ryan's after-state was a vacuum. He was blacklisted from finance, abandoned by his friends, and entirely alone. He began a self-imposed penance. He worked heavy construction by day and delivered food by night, living on the bare essentials so he could put every spare dollar back into the fund he had defrauded. It took 2 years of manual labor to repay the full $50,000. He wasn't doing it to avoid a lawsuit. He was doing it so he could finally look at himself in the mirror again. Accountability is the physical labor of repair. Ryan spent 700 days ensuring his apology was backed by something more substantial than just words. 3 years later, Ryan was living a much simpler life in Colorado. He spent his afternoons at a community center, helping teenagers navigate the pressures of college applications. When he met Ethan, a student tempted to lie on his application to get ahead, Ryan didn't lecture him. He showed him the scars of his own choices, using the ruins of his old life to help the boy choose a different path. When Emma eventually visited the center, she saw a man who had finally become worthy of the truth. There were no promises of a reconciliation, But for the first time, there was a genuine connection built on reality. A single lie might solve a problem for an hour or even a day. But the truth is, the only currency strong enough to protect your future